And also for the Prime Minister, so what does a good deal for Canada look like with the United States on it?
Frankly, we'll have opportunities over the next 48 hours to discuss in more detail as the negotiations go forward, and I think that's the best forum. The most important thing happening this week in Canada is today's announcement.
Donald Trump may be trying to increase pressure on Canada, but Mark Carney just delivered a response so massive that it may be impossible for Washington to ignore. And he did it in one of the most strategic ways possible. Standing in Newfoundland and Labrador, Carney announced what he described as the largest clean energy investment in Canadian history. And when he was asked whether he expected to speak with Donald Trump before the latest tariff deadline, his answer was immediate, yes. But here is where it gets interesting. Carney made clear that one of the first things on the agenda would be this enormous Canadian project. 14,000 megawatts of clean power. Tens of thousands of jobs. A massive critical minerals corridor. And approximately $70 billion in committed investment. This was not Canada responding to Trump with panic. It was Canada responding with scale.
Question for the Prime Minister. Do you expect to speak with the U.S. President before Wednesday's tariff deadline? And if so, what will your message be for President Trump?
Short answer is yes. Secondly, I'm sure the first thing we'll talk about is this historic investment. And I say that in all seriousness. The scale of what this is, in terms of the 14,000 megawatts of clean power, the 23,000 plus jobs in the construction phase alone of the power, but also in opening up the Fosse de Labrador, the Labrador Trough, the enormous resources in critical minerals, iron ore, the extra 16,000 jobs in the construction phase of that. The way this is being conducted is the type of generational investment that gets everyone's attention, even the President of the United States. Maybe I'll translate "met chez nous" for the President as well, which is a lesson. And then we'll have a good discussion about the opportunities together. Thank you.
And also for the Prime Minister, so what does a good deal for Canada look like with the United States on it?
Frankly, we'll have opportunities over the next 48 hours to discuss in more detail as the negotiations go forward, and I think that's the best forum. The most important thing happening this week in Canada is today's announcement.
Carney's message carried an unmistakable subtext. While Donald Trump continues using tariff threats and economic pressure against Canada, the world is still investing in the country. And this announcement was not designed to be a quiet piece of domestic policy news. Carney openly framed it as the kind of generational investment that gets everyone's attention, even the President of the United States. Think about that for a moment. What is the stronger message in the middle of a Canada-US trade dispute? A defensive statement about tariffs? Or a $70 billion investment designed to build enough clean power and industrial capacity to reshape Canada's economic future? Carney appears to have chosen the second option. Because while Washington focuses on deadlines, tariffs and pressure, Canada is announcing long-term capacity. And that may be the deeper story behind this entire project.
Canada has built big before. The ambitions of James Bay and the original Churchill Falls, those ambitions were dizzying. The technical challenges were immense. The scale is unprecedented. And today, we're coming together determined to build on that greatness, to develop the biggest clean energy initiative in North American history. To power tomorrow's economy, to strengthen Canada's place in the world, to give ourselves more than any other nation can take away. Because when we work together, there is nothing that Canada cannot do.
When asked about his upcoming conversation with Donald Trump, Carney did not begin by talking about concessions. He did not begin with anxiety over what Washington might do next. He led with the investment. The project involves approximately 14,000 megawatts of clean and renewable power. More than 23,000 construction jobs are expected on the energy side alone, along with further economic activity tied to the development of critical minerals and iron ore resources in the Labrador Trough. This is the kind of number that changes the conversation. And Carney made the strategy clear. Canada is not freezing its plans while waiting for better behavior from Donald Trump. It is not putting nation building on hold because another tariff deadline is approaching. Canada is moving forward, with or without Washington's approval. That is the message Trump may now hear directly. And it raises an important question. In a contest between economic disruption and long-term investment, which strategy ultimately has more power?
And as both my colleagues here today alluded to, we're living in a time of great disruption. Every Canadian is feeling the economic impacts at the kitchen table, at the pumps, on the factory floors. And we're all experiencing the changing climate, the smoke that's blanketing our nation, the flames that are threatening our homes, the extreme weather, quote, extreme weather that's becoming all too common while reshaping livelihoods. Canadians won't simply endure these challenges. We will meet them with determined action. We're starting from a position of strength because Canada has what the world wants: the natural resources, the critical minerals, the clean power that will build this century. We have the workers like Premier Frichette's father, who will bring this vision to life, just as he did. The leaders behind me, the leaders in front of me, who understand what's possible when we build together. And we have another thing. We have trust, the most valuable commodity in an increasingly volatile and unreliable world. We have everything we need to build the future that we want and that our children deserve. We have everything to do to make the weather. So we're gathered here today, as you know, to announce this historic deal. The Premier of Newfoundland and Labrador, the Premier of Quebec, the leaders of Hydro-Quebec and Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro, in full partnership with the newly elected Grand Chief of the Innu Nation of Labrador, Jody Hashini. Congratulations again. As part of this agreement, the federal government will guarantee the financing for the massive Gull Island Power Project as part of a new Atlantic energy strategy under the Major Projects Office. As part of this agreement, we will co-invest alongside the Innu Nation in the enormous Labrador onshore wind project. And as part of this agreement, the Government of Canada will help finance the new transmission lines that will link this clean energy to users in Labrador, in Quebec. Because yes, we love these windswept lands.
Pressed on what a good trade deal with the United States would look like, Carney kept the focus exactly where he wanted it. Negotiations, he suggested, would continue through the proper channels. But the most important thing happening in Canada this week was not another round of tariff brinkmanship. It was this announcement. That may sound like a small shift in language, but strategically it is enormous. Carney was effectively refusing to allow Donald Trump's tariff deadline to define Canada's entire national agenda. The White House can create deadlines. It can threaten tariffs. It can increase pressure. But Canada still gets to decide what it builds. And this project is about much more than electricity.
The largest clean energy investment in North American history. Let's just put this in context. Tripling the current generation capacity of Churchill Falls to that 14,000 megawatts of renewable power. That's more than the entire generating capacity of BC Hydro. It's more than double the output of Bruce Power, the largest nuclear plant on this continent. It is the equivalent of 18 Hoover dams in America at their current capacity. Enough power to light, heat, cool the homes in Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver combined. To provide the power we need to run the mines, the mills, the factory floors where Canadians will build their future. This is nation-building investment on the scale of the Trans-Canada Highway and the St. Lawrence Seaway. The projects launched today represent a total financial commitment of the partners of approximately $70 billion, the largest single investment in Canada's history.
Carney placed the announcement in a much larger historical context. Canada has built big projects before. James Bay. The original Churchill Falls development. Those projects were considered enormous ambitions for their time. But Carney's argument is that the ambition today is even larger. The project is being framed as the biggest clean energy initiative in North American history, with a purpose that goes far beyond producing more electricity. The objective is to power the economy of tomorrow, strengthen Canada's position in the world, and give Canadians something increasingly valuable in a period of geopolitical uncertainty, greater economic self-reliance.
Building big, building fast, building in partnership. This is how we will make the weather. This is how we will meet tomorrow's challenges. Building clean, building resilient. That's how we will help address a changing climate. This is Canada resilient. This is Canada sustainable. This is Canada strong. Thank you all very much.
Carney closed with the governing philosophy behind the announcement: building big, building fast, and building in partnership. His argument was that Canada must make the weather rather than simply being shaped by it. Clean, resilient, sustainable, strong. And the final message was not subtle. This is Canada strong. At a moment of renewed tariff pressure from Donald Trump, Mark Carney responded by announcing what he described as the largest clean energy investment in Canadian history. He confirmed that he expected to speak with the US president. And he made clear that this massive Canadian project would be part of that conversation. The deeper message is difficult to miss. Trump can continue applying pressure. But the investment still came. The partnership still formed. The jobs are part of the plan. The energy capacity is being built. The critical minerals development is moving forward. And the approximately $70 billion commitment represents a direct investment in Canada's long-term economic future. Carney's strategic idea is increasingly clear: Canada should give itself more than any other country can take away. That may be the most important message in this entire announcement. But what do you think? Is this the kind of nation-building investment Canada needs right now? Can massive clean energy projects and critical minerals development make Canada more economically independent from the United States? And do you think Mark Carney should put this $70 billion project at the top of his conversation with Donald Trump? Drop your opinion in the comments, because I want to know where you stand. And if you want more coverage of Mark Carney, Donald Trump, Canada-US relations, Trump tariffs, Canadian energy, critical minerals, and the changing global economy, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications.